The prairie stretched endless, a rolling ocean of grass that whispered beneath the breath of dawn. Elias Kane stood alone in it, the brim of his hat shadowing eyes that had seen too many nights without sleep. His rifle rested easy in his hands, though nothing felt easy. At his feet lay a woman, her green prairie dress torn and soaked with blood, her face pale, lips parted, but unmoving. Her chest rose shallow, uncertain. Two little girls clung to each other a step away, their pink dresses stained from dust and fear, their boots scuffed near to ruin. One of them, small hands trembling, had tugged his coat the night before and whispered the words that haunted him still. Asterisk Mama hasn't opened her eyes since last night. Please help, asterisk. He hadn't planned to stop. Men like him rarely did. In towns he was a shadow, spoken of with spit in the voice. Kane, the drifter, a man with no place to rest and no one to vouch for his name. But the look in the child's eyes had cut through the armor he wore tighter than his coat. It was the look of someone who had already lost too much and could not lose again. So Elias stayed. The night had been long. He had crouched by the fire, feeding it slivers of wood, tearing cloth from his shirt to bind the woman's wound. His fingers remembered motions he wished they had forgotten, pressing linen to blood, checking breath, measuring life against time. Too many men had slipped away in his arms during border skirmishes, their faces vanishing like smoke. He would not let her go, though her silence gnawed at him like wolves in the dark. The girls had curled together beside the fire, too weary to cry, their small shoulders quivering against one another. Each sound of coyotes far off made them clutch tighter, until dawn stretched its pale light over the plain. Now the world was awake, and so was danger. Elias scanned the horizon, the cabin not far behind him, a crooked silhouette of wood against the rolling grass. Its porch sagged, one shutter torn loose, a place that looked abandoned long before last night. Inside had told another tale. Chairs overturned, boot prints smeared in mud, the stink of liquor thick in the air. Whoever had hurt her had left their shadows on the walls, though not their names. The girls moved carefully, as if afraid to break whatever thin thread still tied their mother to the living. The elder one, her braid undone and blowing across her face, brought Elias a tin cup of water. Her hands shook, but she held his gaze with a courage that startled him. Mama always said kindness is a fire, she whispered, as if those words might stoke something still warm inside her mother's still body. Elias swallowed hard, the word sticking like ash in his throat. He was no man of kindness, at least not by the world's judgment. Yet here he was, a stranger who had no reason to be tethered to their fate, and still he couldn't step away. By noon the prairie showed riders moving along the ridge. Distant silhouettes, but enough for Elias to know trouble when he saw it. Men from Iron Creek, most likely. He could almost hear the gossip already stirring in town. Elias Kane, holed up with a wounded woman and 2 children. They'd say he was dangerous, that he'd taken them for his own dark reasons. No one in Iron Creek believed in his better side, if such a side even existed. To them, he was a drifter with blood on his boots and a curse in his name. They'd be quick to judge, quicker still to act. Elias shifted his stance, rifle balanced across his knees as he sat on the cabin steps. His pulse steadied the way it always did before trouble. But there was a difference this time. 2 pairs of eyes watching from the doorway, too young to understand lawmen or lies, yet old enough to know fear. The younger girl pressed a ribbon into his hand, soft and frayed from her dress. "It's for luck," she said, her voice no louder than a breath. He turned it over in his palm, feeling its weight heavier than iron. Luck had never followed him before, but he tucked it into his coat all the same. The sun sagged westward, shadows long and reaching. The woman inside still breathed, though her eyelids did not stir. Elias checked her wound once more, changing the cloth, whispering words she could not hear. Asterisk, don't quit. Not on them. Not on me. Asterisk, his voice cracked against the silence, but he didn't stop. The girls leaned against the wall nearby, fighting sleep, their small bodies swaying like saplings in the wind. When darkness came again, stars spilled across the sky like salt over black velvet. Elias remained on the steps, rifle close, the ribbon burning in his coat. Coyotes howled, the prairie wind carried whispers, and the cabin seemed to breathe with him. He could walk away still, vanish into the night as he had done so many times before. Yet each time the thought rose, he saw their faces, the weight of their faith resting against him. The fire snapped, sending sparks upward. Elias lifted his eyes to the endless dark. He was not a man who stayed. And yet, as the night pressed close, he knew with a strange, steady certainty. He could not leave. Not this time. Morning came sharp and bright, the kind of prairie dawn that showed every truth in merciless light. Elias Kane stepped outside the cabin, his boots sinking into damp earth, the rifle slung across his shoulder. Behind him, the woman still lay in the narrow bed, her breath shallow but steady. The girls lingered near the doorway, watching him with eyes too solemn for their years. They had slept in fits, waking at every coyote's call, and now their faces carried shadows deeper than the night before. Elias could not give them promises, but he could give them his presence, and in the west that was sometimes the same thing. He scanned the horizon. Dust plumes coiled against the sky, riders moving closer. His gut told him who they were. Men from Iron Creek, men who carried judgment quicker than bullets. Elias could hear the voices already, not from their mouths, but from memory. Asterisk, Cain's no good. Cain's cursed. He's bound for gallows, sure as sun rises. Asterisk, town gossip could kill faster than steel. And now it had ridden out to his doorstep. The elder daughter edged closer, holding out a tin cup of water. Her braid had loosened in the wind, strands brushing her face. "Mama would want you to have this," she said softly. Elias took it, the cool metal stinging his calloused hands. He drank, not from thirst, but from respect for her courage. When he lowered the cup, she added, almost shy, "She always said kindness is a fire. You just have to keep it lit." The words struck him harder than any bullet. Elias had spent years smothering whatever embers once burned in him, carrying only the ashes. Yet these children, two little souls with nothing left but their mother's fading breath, spoke to him as though he still had something worth saving. The younger girl pressed a ribbon into his palm, pink and frayed, the kind of thing a child should treasure. "It's for luck," she whispered. Elias tucked it into his coat, feeling its weight grow heavier with every heartbeat. By noon the riders drew near. 5 men, broad-shouldered, their horses kicking up dust as they circled the cabin. Elias stepped forward, rifle in hand, body braced like a post in the wind. One of the men spat into the dirt, his voice carrying the sneer of the town behind it. "Cain, word is you've got women and young ones here that don't belong to you. We're here to set things straight." The girls froze in the doorway, small fingers gripping the frame as if it could hold them safe. Elias didn't glance back, though he felt their fear pressing into him like weight on his shoulders. He met the riders with steady eyes. "They're not yours to claim," he said, voice low and unshaken. "And she's not yours to bury." The men laughed, circling wider. "You think anyone will believe you, Cain? You're nothing but a stray dog. Town will thank us for putting you down." The prairie held still, wind pausing as though even the earth leaned in to hear what came next. Elias planted his boots in the dirt, the ribbon burning against his chest. He thought of every road he'd walked alone, every time he'd turned away from those who might have needed him. He thought of the woman lying pale inside the cabin, and of the girls who had given him more faith than he deserved. Shame and sorrow twisted into resolve. For the first time in years, Elias wasn't running. He raised the rifle, not as a drifter, but as a man who had finally chosen to stay. "You'll believe me soon enough," he said. The first shot cracked across the prairie, scattering crows into the sky. Horses reared. Men cursed. Gunfire answered sharp and furious. Elias moved with grim precision, every shot a promise, every breath a vow. Dust swirled, bullets sang, but he did not yield. When the echoes faded, silence spread wide and heavy. Some of the riders lay in the grass, others fled toward the ridge, shadows swallowed by distance. Elias lowered the rifle, chest heaving, sweat burning his eyes. Behind him, the girls ran forward, clutching his arms, tears streaking their faces. Their small voices tangled with relief and fear, calling him something he had not been in years, safe. And then, from inside the cabin, a sound. A cough, faint but certain. The woman stirred, her eyes fluttering open at last. She met Elias's gaze across the doorway. No words passing her lips, only a look that carried more weight than speech ever could. Gratitude. Trust. A fragile thread of hope. Elias bowed his head, a prayer unspoken. The prairie wind carried away the last smoke of gunfire, and for the first time, he felt rooted to the earth beneath his boots. He was no longer drifting. He was standing for something greater than himself, and the West, for all its cruelty, would have to reckon with that. The night ahead promised danger still, but as the stars waited to return, Elias Kane knew one truth. He would not leave. Not now, not ever.